We've been dealing with the subject of relationships. And so I want to do something a little bit different today in that we are going to go to just a few scriptures rather than digging into one. Uh, but we're going to start in Second Timothy chapter number 1. And so get that ready. Second Timothy chapter number 1. For those of you who are looking for a verse number 16. 2 Timothy chapter 1 and verse number 16. I've said it time and time again. One of the most important things that I've heard from the Lord is this: son, everything you need, it is in a relationship. Everything that you need, everything that you need is in a relationship. And he further said, even your salvation. Our salvation is because of Jesus Christ. It's because of the relationship that we have with Christ, not because of what we've done or anything that we ever will do, but it's because of what he's done. And so the relationships are important. God thought enough of relationships to make the statement in Genesis that it is not good for man to be alone, to be all one, to be alienated, to be separated. And of course, we know what happened there in the Genesis account. But I want to submit to you today that there are people, types of people that we need in our life. And so I want to talk to you from this subject, the kind of people that we need in our lives, the kind of people that we need in our lives. And we must know what we need, and we need to know who these people are. And as we go through them today, by no means is this an exhaustive list, but I think it's a great start. The first type of person that you need in your life is a refresher. Say that, please. A refresher, a refresher. When you look in 2 Timothy chapter number 1, verse number 16, he said, the Lord, and I'm reading from a New King James Version, he says, the Lord grant mercy to the household of Onesiphorus, for he often, what? Say it loud. Refreshed me and was not ashamed of my chains. Generally, when you see Paul writing, he'll have a greeting, and then he'll greet a number of people throughout his letters. And in writing this letter, he referenced Onesiphorus, and he said this about him. He said, he often refreshed me. And so refresh there means to relieve. It means to cool off. It means encouragement after a time of anxiety and trouble. And so he said, he often refreshed me. He often relieved me. He often cooled me off. He often encouraged me after a time of anxiety and trouble. Let me say this. We know that anxiety and trouble and difficulty will come. And what I've found out is this: everybody is running at a pace. We're running our race. We're trying to stay in our lane. But I don't care how well you do that, you still need to be refreshed. You need to be refreshed. Some of us right now need to be refreshed. Everything looks better after you've been refreshed. Anybody know what I'm talking about? And so Paul, writing this letter, he said, listen to the words he used. He often, the inference is that I needed it. He needed it often, meaning more than one time. He did this on a regular basis. He came to me and he refreshed me. As we go through this message today, I want you to think from two aspects. One, I want you to think about who that person is to you. Who is your refresher? as we go through this list. Who is that person to you? And the next way I want you to think about it is, who do you refresh? Who do you refresh? I don't need Debbie Drainer, Debbie and Don Drainer in my life. I need refresh. You know, if your name is Debbie, your name is Don. I pick random names, and I'm not specifically talking about you. So don't write and say, Pastor, you know what? Yeah, I don't believe you sit up there and talk about me, talking about you. No. So what I'm getting at is this. He often refreshed me. And ladies and gentlemen, I submit to you that there are things in your life right now that you would see differently if you would go through a period, a time of refreshing. One of the things that we experienced recently, my wife just did this, and a number of the ladies did a women's conference in Myrtle Beach. Wonderful women's conference, but now guess what she's doing? She said, "Oh, I just need some time." Because after you've poured out, you need to be poured back into. After you've done what you do, you need to be poured back into. You don't realize, even on a daily basis, how much you are expending, how much is going out of you. And I have a very simple word for you today, is that you and I need refreshers. Who's that person to you? Who is it that when you're around them, you are encouraged after a time of anxiety? You've cooled off. Who is that person? And then who are you in somebody else's life in terms of, are you that refresher? Second kind of person that we need. Not only do we need refreshers, we need refiners. Come on, say refiners. This time I want you to go to Acts chapter number 18. Acts chapter number 18. And I want to start reading at verse number 24. Acts chapter 18, verse 24. While you're getting there, just remember this. To refine means to take what you have and make it better. Again, to refine means to take what you have and do what? Make it better. Let's read the text. It says here in Acts chapter 18, verse 24, now a certain Jew named Apollos, born at Alexandria, an eloquent man and mighty in scriptures, came to Ephesus. This man had been instructed in the way of the Lord, and being fervent in speech, he spoke and taught accurately the things of the Lord, though he knew only the baptism of John. So he began to speak boldly in the synagogue. When Aquila and Priscilla heard him, they took him aside and explained to him the way of God more accurately. Now, stop right there. Let's look at the text. Verse 24 said there was this certain Jew named Apollos. Listen to how it describes Apollos. It says he was eloquent. That's not bad, is it? Then it says not only was he eloquent, he was mighty in the scriptures, right? Then it said in verse 25, he had been instructed in the way of the Lord, fervent in spirit, spoke and taught accurately the things of the Lord. Now, so was he bad? When I mean bad, meaning really bad in the sense of bad. I know, we think bad is good. But anyway, no. Was he somewhat of an expert in what he was doing? The text says the man was eloquent. The text says the man had it going on. He was the pastor farmer of the day, right? And so you understand. And what I mean by that, he could really articulate. He could really articulate a thought and do that very well. Now, notice what happened. The text says that Aquila and Priscilla heard him. That's why you can't be intimidated by gifting. That's why you can't be intimidated because somebody has something going on and they're doing well with it. They heard him and they had the discernment to say, wait a minute, he hadn't maxed out on his potential. According to the text, he taught the way of the Lord, but he only knew the baptism of John. They said, they heard him and they took him and explained the way of God more accurately. And when he desired to cross to Achaia, verse 27, the brethren wrote, exhorting the disciples to receive him. And when he arrived, he greatly helped those who had believed through grace. For he vigorously refuted the Jews publicly, showing from the scriptures that Jesus is the Christ. You see that? So they took what he had. He had a knowledge of the law. He knew John's baptism. They took what he had and they refined it. As a result of this refining process, the text says now he greatly helped the church. You hearing what he said? He greatly helped the church because somebody had the boldness, had the insight to say, man, you can do, I'm grateful for what you're doing now, but you can do better. Now, I submit to you that there had to be a humility on Apollos' behalf because you can get arrogant when you're gifted. You can can't nobody tell me nothing. I got it going on. I know how to roll my R's, come on. And so we have this thing about us as if God is in heaven going, oh, I am so glad I created them. Oh, without them, I don't know where the kingdom would be. That's how some people think. But he had to humble himself and, listen to this, submit to a refining process. How that looks for each of us may be different, but the truth of the matter is we all can be refined. And we need refiners in our life. Now, hear me. You're not everybody's refiner. So don't take on the role yourself. The Holy Spirit will begin leading you, and you as a refiner, have to have the heart of humility so you don't hear them going, well, you know what? That Apollos is who he is now because of me. What? Hallelujah. Jesus, keep me near the cross. So what I'm getting at is this: to refine means to take what you have and make it better. Years ago, I'm getting ready to mention a name. Don't get upset. Don't get happy. This is for an illustration, all right, just to make the point. LeBron James. All right. Years ago, LeBron James was playing for, this is before he was traded to the Miami Heat. He was traded to the Miami Heat, and when he got there, they went to the championship. They lost to the Dallas Mavericks. During the offseason, LeBron called Magic Johnson and said, what do I need to do? And he called Hakeem Olajuwon. What do I need to do to better my game? at this point in LeBron's career, he had already won an MVP. At that point, he had already won. But I want you to understand something. He had not gotten to that championship level. He called them and asked them, what do I need to do to get better? They said, you need to learn how to play in the paint. He spent time with Hakeem Olajuwon, and the next year's Miami won the championship. They were able to take what he had and make it better. I wonder what would you look like if you would allow somebody to take what you have and just humble yourself and let them make it better. I wonder what would you look like if you and I would just simply go through a refining process. You don't know, I'm telling you, everybody needs a teacher. Everybody needs an instructor. Everybody needs a refiner in their life who can come in and take what they have and say, I can make that better. I can make that better. Oh, we need church refiners. We need people refiners. We need husband refiners. We need wife refiners, children refiners. What would our lives look like if we would simply let somebody take what we have and make it better? I told you 2 types of people that we need. First one is a what? The second one is here's the last one. In the midst of refreshing and refining, every now and then we need a restorer. A restorer. Go to Galatians chapter number 6, please. We need a restorer. Galatians 6:1. It says, brethren, if a man is overthrown in any trespass, you who are spiritual, restore such a one in a spirit of gentleness, considering yourself, lest you also be tempted. Stop right there. Brethren, if a man is overthrown in any trespass, you who are spiritual, restore. When you're talking about restore, there are 3 word pictures that I want to bring to you today that helps us to get at this word restore, to understand what it means. It means to complete thoroughly. But this is the picture. One word picture is this. It's the doctor setting a bone in place. Anybody ever had a broken bone? And you know what I'm talking about? Man, and what happens is this. In an effort to make you whole, the doctor has to bring pain to you. In an effort to get you functional, to move you from a dysfunction to functioning properly, the doctor has to do something. He snatches that bone back in place. That's what I say. Anybody ever had that done? Anybody had a broken bone? And see what God can do. Sometimes in our lives we've incurred some brokenness, we've incurred some difficulty, and God will allow somebody. Sometimes you hear a truth, you hear a word, and the word just will snatch you back into place. It hurt. Oh, I didn't like it, but I'm better because of it, because it's part of that restorative process. I grabbed my arm because I had my wrist fractured years ago playing football in the yard, and I know the pain. My wife had a clean break, was it a couple places in 3 places in her leg. This is before she met me. Had to put all that out there, you know what I'm saying. But anyway, and the doctor had to put that thing back in place. And so, ladies and gentlemen, sometimes restoration in your life is an adjustment. It's a hard adjustment. It's adjusting you in your heart. That's how it looks. Because we think that restore, it all looks the same, but I'm telling you, it looks different. There's another word picture for restoring. It's mending a fish net. And so it's what they would do is this. They would fish not by rod and reel, but they would throw a net out and they would drag in whatever the sea brought in. And sometimes the net would be broken. And the fisherman would have to take time to mend the broken pieces, to put the fibers back together. The things that your life has been drug over sometimes can tear you. Sometimes the stuff that hits your life can literally cause a slight severing. And the next thing you know, you need somebody to mend it. And it's that picture of restoration. So it's literally where you repair. Listen to this. It's the repairing of a relationship so it can be brought back to useful service. So it's that picture of setting a bone in place or mending a fisher's net. A fish net. The next thing, talking another picture, it's refitting a ship after a voyage. Refitting a ship after a voyage. Anybody ever been in the Navy? All right. Anybody ever been on a cruise? I see more hands for the cruise. All right. Anybody ever seen a cruise ship or played a cruise ship on TV? All right, here we go. So what happens is this: when you're in port, it's not like they can, they've been out to sea. But when they come to port, the ship has to be restored. It has to be refitted. And what happens is while you're on your excursion or while you're up there doing what you need to do at the buffet, what'll happen is they'll start bringing on everything necessary for the next leg of the journey. Let me say it again. What'll happen is while you're doing what you're doing, they're bringing on everything necessary for the next leg of the journey. Whatever has been depleted, they begin to replenish. In our lives, we need some people who can bring to us what we need for the next level of the journey because we have been depleted and now we need to be replenished. That's that work of restoration. Can I go just a little bit further? So when we're talking about restoration, those are the 3 word pictures. But everybody's not qualified to be a restorer. Because he said, Paul writing to the church at Galatia said this: you who are so I don't need carnal Carl to try to restore me. If your name is Carl, I'm not talking about you. It just happens to be a C. All right? Or carnal Carmela or whatever, So he said here, you who are spiritual, You who are spiritual. So if I'm overtaken in a fault, if I'm overtaken, if I'm taken, meaning this thing came in my life and I literally got to a place where I had a willful transgression or some type of error, I need somebody who is spiritual. One person who can properly evaluate and judge what it is I need and bring to the table those things that I need. Because I told you that restoration had these three pictures. If you start trying to refit what needs to be readjusted, you haven't properly restored. Are you seeing what I'm talking about? So the person who is a restorer needs to have the kind of insight to see what it is you need, not what they need, but what it is you need, so that you then can be properly brought back to this place of usefulness. And so do me a favor. It's okay to read the Bible in church? Okay, just wanted to check. Turn to 1 Corinthians. Let's go over there. 1 Corinthians chapter number 3. Just real quick. 1 Corinthians chapter number 3. Well, since it's so close, why not let's go to chapter 2. Chapter 2, he says, verse 15, but he who is spiritual judges all things, yet he himself is rightly judged by no one. But when you get down to chapter 3, verse 1, he says, and I, brethren, could not speak to you as spiritual people, but as to carnal, as to babes in Christ. I fed you with milk and not with solid food, for now you were not able to receive it, and even now you're still not able. Verse 3 says, for you are still carnal. That's where we get our word meat from. And that means you're still I don't need to say meathead, but it says you're still carnal. For where there is envy, strife, and divisions among you, are you not carnal and behaving like mere men? What he's saying is this. Why'd you read that? Because some people have giftings, and just because they are gifted doesn't mean they're spiritual. Because the Corinthian church was a gifted church. Paul, writing to this church, talking about they didn't come behind in gifts. Gifts wasn't the issue. They were carnal. They had people issues. There's envy, there's strife, there's division. And hear me in this. If you in your life have envy, strife, and division, it's an indication not of your maturity, but your childishness. If you can't get along with this one, yet you raise your hands and speak in tongues. Don't give me that. Well, this is just kind of, I'm just, and then you put a spiritual facade on it. Oh, now I've gone to preaching. Don't do that. Man up, woman up. And this is what I need to do. I don't get along with this one. And so I'm going to take the bigger step and I'm going to see what can we do to bring this restoration that needs to happen in our relationship so we can get it right. And then I'll be qualified to be a restorer. You who are spiritual, restore. But an indication of my spirituality is not my gifting, it is how I get along with people. And how I'm bearing the fruit of the Spirit in my life. Love, joy, peace, long-suffering, gentleness, goodness, faith, meekness, and temperance. That's the offspring of a person who's connected to Christ. These are the things that begin to show up in their lives. And he says, these are the persons who's qualified to be restorers. You who are spiritual. This is the thing. You would think that God would throw away pieces that have fallen. But God doesn't throw it away. He restores. He restores. So, ladies and gentlemen, the kind of people you need in your life are refreshers, refiners, and restorers. Refreshers, refiners, and restorers. The kind of people you need to be is a refresher, a refiner, and restorer.
Come and experience transforming worship at New Covenant Christian Ministries. We have 2 locations. Our West Campus is located at 1760 Phillips Road, Lithonia, Georgia. Our East Campus is located at 14147 Highway 278, Covington, Georgia. For more information, please visit our website at www.newcov.org.